Hi everybody, and welcome to Chelsea Grattan Bank's Facebook video. Today we're going to be talking about how to use Zoom. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen with you. We have people right now that are having to use Zoom for everyday purposes, from being at work to being able to be in touch with loved ones. So we're going to take a brief foray into basically how to use it, best practices for using it, and some helpful hints and tips. So without further ado, let's just hop right in. I'm Miria Gray. I'm the Community Education Officer here at Chelsea Grattan Bank. And the first thing that you should do when you're hosting a Zoom event is to mute. So when you get on, having a bunch of participants, more than 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, really you get a lot of feedback. So if people are calling in from phones and people are using the audio from their desktops, when you have more people on there, you get feedback, plus there's a lot of background noise. So everybody happens to be working from home or offices right now, and there's different background noises that happen there. So maybe there's a dog barking at the UPS driver, or kids asking for help with homework, or the doorbell ringing, or a telephone ringing. So whatever it might be, keeping people on mute will really help with that. So it eliminates background noise distractions so that the person that's speaking always remains the speaker on the call. When another person has background noise, the ability to talk gets taken away from the speaker and moved over to the person that has noise on their end. So when you're on mute, for those people that are using a desktop, you can hit the space bar to speak, and that will turn off the mute while you're speaking. So you just hold the space bar down for everything that you have to say, and then when you release it again, you'll be back on mute. So it's a really helpful way. If you're using your mobile device, more than likely you're just going to swipe right. There should be a mute unmute button screen, and you can control your ability to mute and unmute there. All right. So if you don't already have an account, you should go ahead and get one. It's currently free for 40-minute calls or meetings. If you have more than 2 participants, if it's a one-on-one conversation, your call can go on for as long as it needs to. So when you create an account, you go to zoom.us, so you make sure you're in the right country. You're going to go ahead and get this screen. You can either sign up at the top here where it says sign up, it's free, or you can sign up down here under the sign in button. It's going to ask you for your date of birth. This is just for verification purposes, and it's not going to store that information. And it's going to ask for your work or whatever email address it is that you would like to use with the Zoom account. So if you're using it for personal reasons, your personal email. If you're using it for work reasons, your work email. And then it's going to ask you to add all your information. So basically it's going to send you a confirmation email to your email, and you'll continue with that, and then you put in all your information. So your first name, last name, and create a password. So make sure this password is not easy to hack. So it's not like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It is not password. Make it something secure so that you don't get hacked. And then once you've filled in all your information, you can start a test meeting. It'll use your personal URL, so you can pop it open and see what happens. or you can just go to your account, or you can X out at this point. All right, so best practices for scheduling. So when you finish creating your account, this would be your home screen as you would look at it. So you would say new meeting, and that starts a meeting right away. So if you wanted a new meeting, you could just click on that and it's going to open the Zoom meeting box immediately and allow you to invite a couple of people. This is great if somebody said, hey, can we have a quick chat? Would you start a Zoom meeting? Then you can do that. If you want to join one, if somebody has sent you an invitation to join a Zoom meeting, you can click join and add in the details for the Zoom meeting. If not, you can just click the link that they sent you and it should take you directly there. I use the join function frequently because I join outside of my work email. So if I can look on my work email from my join, and then, but if I click it in my work email, it takes me through the server, which doesn't work out as well as joining outside of the server. And then you can schedule one. So if you wanted a meeting that was either going to happen later in the day, that was going to happen or in the future, tomorrow or weeks in advance, you can use the schedule feature and be able to send people invitations via email. And you can just, there's a share screen button here, which allows you to share your screen, which I have never used because I'm always in the meeting when I'm going to share my screen already. So best practices for scheduling. So you're going to name your meeting. So right now it says Miria Gray's Zoom meeting. I could leave that, but I wouldn't want every meeting to be Miria Gray's Zoom meeting. I would want to be more specific about it. I would want to say, you know, how to use Zoom meeting. I would pick my start date and time, how long I think it's going to be. This is for calendaring purposes, so it makes sure to block off enough time on people's calendars. If you have a paid account, you can go over that time for as long as you want. If you have the unpaid account, you're only going to be able to go for 40 minutes if you have more than 2 people. You can decide if it's reoccurring or if it is just happening the one time, or if you're meeting a team meeting every Tuesday at 9 a.m. So for meeting ID, you're going to want to use generate automatically. You really don't want to use your personal meeting ID because once you use that and everybody has that information, they can log into any Zoom meeting that you're having because it keeps the ID and password the same every time. So for security purposes on Zoom's end, you should generate automatically and never use your personal meeting ID. Unless you want to use that for family and friends so that you don't have to keep telling them what it is. Video, I always turn my host video on. And if it's a reason that I would want to see participants, I could turn them on or leave them off. Audio, I always use telephone and computer audio so that people can join by either one that they would feel more comfortable with. I prefer not to have my audio going through my phone. I like to be able to do my audio through the computer, but not everybody has audio through their computer or video. So if they're going to go the telephone route, you just want to make sure that they have the ability to do that. And then choose the type of calendar that you want it to be on. So if you typically use Outlook, if you typically use Google, or you have a different type of calendar. Okay. And then down here, there's an advanced options tab. So you can enable your waiting room. So this is really good if you want to make sure that only the participants that you invited are getting into the meeting. So for example, Franco's Comedy for Your Cause has hosted several Zoom comedy events. Enabling the waiting room allows you to look at the guest list and allow those people in that have paid for the event, and to deny or eliminate those people that have not. So that is a great way to use a waiting room. It's also great if you're having a more confidential meeting, like a board meeting or something like that, where you may be talking about different types of things. You could also do it if you were having a team meeting, but you wanted to meet with somebody one-on-one in advance of the team meeting. So you could invite them to come a little bit early, make everybody go out in the waiting room so that you can allow them in when you're done with your one-on-one. Enable join before host. So normally you wouldn't do this, but for our book clubs, this is exactly what I do. I only host one of our 3 book clubs. So for the other 2, all I do is schedule the book club to happen, enable join before host, and they can continue on with their book club without me having to be there. So that works out really well for those types of situations. Mute participants on entry. So this is great if you're having a larger meeting and you know that you're going to have a speaker, so that everybody would be muted when they get in. Oh, thank you, sorry. And also you have the ability to mute everybody all at once they're in. So if you want to let everybody in and have like a 5-minute time where they can talk to each other before the meeting starts, and then you have the ability to mute everybody once they're in. Only authenticated users can join means that people have to sign into their Zoom account to be able to join. So this is really good if you're really having a more confidential thing. You want to make sure that people who they say they are. The only downside to this is people have to have created a Zoom account to be able to use that function. So if you're going to use that function, I would let people know in advance that they need to create a Zoom account to be able to log into that meeting, so that you're not wasting time while people are trying to create a Zoom account because they didn't know. Automatically record meeting. So if you want to record the meeting while it is happening, you can do that function, so you don't have to remember to hit record. This is great if, for example, some people weren't going to be able to attend the meeting that you really wanted them to be able to have access to. You could record the meeting and then share it with them. And you can have alternate hosts. So say, for example, I wasn't going to be there, I could make somebody else the alternate host. So hosting do's and don'ts. Don't make private meetings public, meaning don't use your standard login information, have it auto-generate, because you don't want to have people in there that shouldn't be in there. Do manage screen sharing. So if you're going to be sharing your screen, if you don't have anybody else that should be sharing their screen, you have the ability to turn that feature off if you log into your account on a computer desktop, because you don't want somebody to accidentally be sharing their screen and then you're looking at, somebody's desktop. It happens, especially people that don't exactly know how to use Zoom and they're trying to search around and figure out how to do things. I've had people accidentally share their screens before. So it's really great if you're the only one that's going to be screen sharing to turn that function off. Do manage your participants. So we all have those people that are super distracting, or are having conversations off to the side, or don't realize that we can hear their dog barking in their background, or that their radio is playing, or that there's a TV on. So you can mute those people, you can manage those people. If somebody is really distracting, you can remove them from the meeting altogether. So say they're being argumentative, or they're overtaking the conversation, or they won't stop. You can remove them from the meeting altogether. Limit distractions especially on your end. If you're presenting, make sure that you're in a quiet area, make sure that nobody is going to be walking through, and do the best you can to make it so people aren't walking behind you, that distractions are limited. Make sure that your camera is positioned correctly. And we're going to take a look at some ways about what is good and what is not good coming up. Don't use a background for your professional meeting. So if you're having a really professional meeting, sometimes having one of the virtual backgrounds, which actually I have right now, doesn't necessarily work out so well. So if I wave my hand over here, sometimes you will fall into your background. If somebody walks behind you, they'll ghost in and out. And if it's not functioning correctly, it does more to distract people than it does to protect whatever you're trying to show. I am using one of our Center Groton Chelsea branch just because it's better than looking at my office. Do record meetings, record them for your personal information, record them to share for people that aren't there, record them if you're doing something fun. Franco's Comedy for Your Cause, they record their meetings so that they have the full comedy on record, and it's a super fun way to go. So manage your screen sharing. You can go to security down here. If you hover over the bottom, if you go to security, you can manage your screen sharing there. So you can turn screen sharing off. You can lock your meeting, which means that you will not allow any other participants in. You can enable your waiting room. You can screen share. You can chat. People can rename themselves. This is where you can toggle things on and off. Locking your meeting is good if you don't want people bopping in and bopping out. If you don't have a preference, if you're expecting somebody to come late because they had something else to go on, you wouldn't want to enable that. Manage your participants. So a good way to help manage is to lock the meeting, especially if you've got a lot of participants and you don't want the distraction of trying to have to let them into a meeting. You can remove unwanted or disruptive people, which is a really great way to go. You can mute your participants. And you can disable people's video. So this is really important if they don't realize something's either going on behind them, or if we've seen some of those where people stand up and all of a sudden they don't have pants on. This is a good way to take care of that really quickly as the host. You can see down here, you can invite, mute all, unmute all, and this three little dots here allows you to mute participants on entry, allow participants to unmute themselves. So if people want to talk or ask questions, you can allow them to do that. If you don't want them to do that, you can shut that off. Allow participants to rename themselves. Sometimes this is good, sometimes it's not good. If somebody else is using somebody else's account, they may want to rename themselves so they're labeled correctly. That you can play enter and exit chime. I will tell you, if you have a lot of participants, this gets really annoying, but it does help you if you've got that waiting room going on so that you know when somebody enters that waiting room. You can enable your waiting room and you can lock the meeting. Sharing content. So as we had seen previously on this screen, you can click this green button to share your content. And when you do that, will bring up this screen. This is everything that was open on my desktop that I would have the ability to share. So this is a regular screen. If I wanted to hook up an iPhone or an iPad to my computer, I could. This is another PowerPoint I had up. This was a web browser that I was looking at bad Zoom camera angles. And this is a PowerPoint presentation that I would want to share. So here's a recommendation. If you're going to share your screen, nobody else gets to see this except for you, but if you're going to share your desktop, for example, make sure that your desktop is clean. You don't have anything on there that you wouldn't want people to see. You've closed all of other browsers that you've got going on, so that you can make sure that you're not sharing things that you wouldn't want to share with people. You can annotate. So if you're sharing your screen, like I was doing here, you can bring down the top bar, and then you can annotate on a slide, which is really interesting, especially if somebody has a question about what you're talking about. For teachers, this is great if somebody had a question about a math problem or English problem, or where there was a misspelling. You can choose up here to draw on it, to use an eraser. The eraser doesn't let you erase content on the screen. It only allows you to erase the annotations you may have made. You can use text, you can get your mouse and you can select some things, and you can save the annotations if you want to. So if you and your colleagues are editing a document together, this is a great way to save those annotations to make the changes later. Your camera position. So this is, a typical Zoom meeting with 8 people. So this guy's kind of below him, looking up. This girl right here, she's looking right on. This guy's looking right on. This guy's, it's too dark, you can't see him. This girl here is pretty good. This one here, she's cut the top of her head off. This guy, I'm not sure what he's doing, but he's got a pretty good camera angle. And again, this guy has a window behind him, so he's pretty dark. This lady here, if you look at the camera position, nobody wants to be looking up anybody's nose. So coming from below up allows people to see like up your nose. Nobody in your call wants to see that. Coming directly on, this is a much better look for her. The light is much better. So this is a no and this is a yes. So here are some Zoom disasters that may have happened in the past. You may have seen this. So in this meeting, and this was one that had gone viral a little bit, this boss was doing a Zoom meeting with her employees, and she accidentally turned herself into a potato, and she couldn't figure out how to get herself to not be a potato, so she ended up having to do the whole meeting as a potato, which is funny, but you're wasting a lot of time. It's not that professional. Luckily, she was only had a couple of people in the meeting. But again, somebody had posted that online. So a mistake that you made that you thought was private between 2 people is now a viral post on the internet. This gentleman here is using a background. Now, the thing about backgrounds is if you're wearing white, they will, Zoom will eliminate that as a color. So a lot of times what you see is if you have really white teeth, it's going to eliminate your teeth so you can see the grass right through his mouth. He probably has on a white shirt, so it looks like he's a floating head. This is not a good look for anybody. So this is why it's super important to be careful when you're using digital backgrounds, the virtual background for a professional meeting. This one down here is what I had alluded to before. This gentleman was having a meeting with his colleagues, and you look great from the top up, but he forgot that he wasn't wearing pants, and he got up and started walking across the room in just his boxers. That is not a good look for a professional meeting. Okay, so here we were talking about those backgrounds that you could use. You can upload your own background. So she has chosen one here from The Office. He has chosen a really nice artistic background. If you have a blank wall behind you, it works better. Green screen works the best. So if you're going to be doing a lot of backgrounds and you want something to be behind you, like in my case, you're going to want to use a green screen, and it will help eliminate some of those problems that typically would pop up. So how can you use Zoom for other things? So you can use it for get-togethers. So this right here is a picture of, this is my family, this is my parents, and this is my brother and sister-in-law, and my nephews and niece. At Easter, we used Zoom to all have Easter dinner together since we couldn't do it in person. The hardest thing about that was everybody having dinner ready together all at the same time so that we could all sit down at the same time and eat together. So it's a really great way to do it. We recorded a little bit of this for posterity so that as the kids get older, that they remember that this Easter dinner was totally different than any other one. This right here, you can play games virtually. So you can host a game night. So these people were playing Jackbox games, which you can host on Steam, which is a computer online gaming platform, or you can use your Xbox and then use your computer to share that. And then, so you would host the Zoom, you would share this screen, and on Jackbox games, you answer questions from your phone remotely so everybody can play together. So this is a really fun way to do things. And you can teach. So right now I'm teaching and you can host a class, but my friend Kirsten hosts a class for younger students, an English class. And so you can share your screen. So she had created some worksheets. They were annotating, they were drawing on them. And I have her right here because you can't show the kids. So, it's interesting to be able to do that. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. But that's a really good overview on how to use Zoom and some features that it has. But my contact information is below, and you can feel free to reach out. We'll see you later, and you have a great week. Bye-bye.